the looks like a tornado, they don't call them that anymore, that hit the crops and wetlands in the middle of the country, and Iowa and Nevada.
Well. If it isn't old horseworm Rogan. I'm glad you're well, man.
Bro, do I have to sue CNN?
I don't know, do you?
They're making shit up.
We will not tolerate individuals that disregard the lives of the larger population that we serve.
We are determined that we are going to deal with climate change and have zero emissions, net emissions by 2050. By 2020, make sure all our electricity is zero emissions.
Yeah. By 2020, Alice, it's going to happen. Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Biden was out there doing the post Ida tour, and New York and New Jersey did not treat him well. Needless to say, there's always the risk when you go to areas with high concentration of law enforcement and firemen and many times just Italians. That they're not going to appreciate you if you're Joe Biden and not Donald Trump, and they gave him hell today. And that's fine. I don't care either. You can yell at the president if you want. You can yell at the last guy. You can yell at Obama. You're allowed to do whatever you want. These folks feel like Biden has abandoned Americans overseas, and he did. So,
yeah,
I've got no.
Did you hear that there were like chants of college at all the college football games too, of people chanting "F you, Biden"?
Yeah, I saw a lot of that, and they're going to do that. That makes sense. Those, I tell you, man, I would never watch a college football match of anything. But did I already say this? But some of those big things with the theme songs, etc., like "Jump Around," and the crowds of all the tens of thousands of people is like, wow, I could get into a little bit of that. That exuberance is pretty cool.
I would say there might be some drinking involved too, which could be a hit. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some. Yeah, there's a great piece of. It's only good video, but a great piece of this. This country is so stupid. But a great piece of video showing a guy at the South Carolina Gamecocks game. He was walking through the tailgate part of, which I assume is probably the size of Delaware, the tailgate area. Is a reporter, and he's doing a stand-up, and he's walking through, of course, while talking about the sights and sounds going on. And every yahoo in the world is down there double fisting beers and drunk as hell, and drunken, shirtless, sunburned dudes and drunken, busting out of their tops, blonde co-eds, trunk everywhere, all over the.
Yeah, I saw one with a female reporter. It
Oh,
looked
really?
like she was in a parking garage or something almost, it looked like. And she was getting hassled big time. She was like out of the shot half the time because she was trying to avoid
they can't.
being hassled by yahoos. But I think with last summer being sort of a wash with COVID and everything, I think people are ready to be back in the action.
Oh, totally.
People have gotten vaccinated and they're ready to go, which is why I think it's so interesting that Biden thinks he's going to go out here on Thursday. I originally heard his speech about his new COVID rules he was going to put in was going to be like today, but it's Thursday now. So he's going to unveil some 6-point plan to knock out Delta. Like now that Delta's peaking in the U.S., we'll probably have some kind of fall wave up north. But now that the summer wave is peaking, he's going to roll out a 6-point plan and take credit for it going back down again as the weather gets more moderate in the south. And, and so, but I mean, does he think that's going to help his popularity? Since everybody already hates him now.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think maybe he does. I think that they're trying to shake it up. Really, they're trying to create a buzz and fervor around him. They have, these people that they hire. Hello. Come on, baby. These people that they hire are big price tag professionals. A lot of them, Ron Klain and even Psaki. And I think that they're assuming and hoping that he can bust out of this thing and get something going here. But
you can't message your way out of sucking this bad, though.
Yeah, well, it's all about the midterms. So I think that they're going to do whatever it takes to try to get this guy polling better. I agree.
I don't think they're going to have their infrastructure package if he doesn't do something.
And actually, by the way,
either the bipartisan or the extra super one.
No, I hope they don't at this point. I'm all for it. I'm all for shutting this freaking Congress down. I'm so disgusted. First of all, the freaking roads and bridges are fine. They're fine. Okay, I don't care about the roads and bridges. I drive on the sucky roads, and I'm fine. I'd rather have...
I do think about it now since that... I mean, I know this is like the most cliche thing ever, but like I never really thought about cracked concrete until the Florida building collapsed. And now, like, when I go under little overpasses and stuff, I'm looking up and around and going like, that does look pretty cracked. Like, I hope it doesn't fall on me. Like, I do think that stuff sometimes. But I know you'd be thrilled if you got hit by an overpass.
I am ready to go. Absolutely. There's no problem there. There's no problem there whatsoever. So, I don't even know where to begin. I can tell you that we're going to have fun, Alice. I'm not... You guys listening, and thank you very much. We are... I'm listening to Blind Mike's podcast yesterday, and they've got the weed people selling ads on there. Why don't we have that, by the way?
Nobody's offered to buy ads on our show.
Oh, I see. Let's make sure we don't say that on the podcast because it really sounds pathetic, Alice.
Well, yeah, ask the question. You gotta not have questions like that. You gotta not have questions like that for your sales department in the middle of the show. Then,
hold on here.
Mm-hmm.
If Blind Mike and Craig can be debaucherous, I can be debaucherous.
Well, you know what?
I can blast lines
I'll
and
shoot
smoke
an
weed
email. I'll shoot an email to the weed gummies people.
Please do. I'd like to take some weed
and I'll
gummies.
let them know.
And I want a promo code
I'm
like
not
he has.
going to use the weed gummies.
I'm going to use the weed gummies, Alice.
Oh, maybe if they have a promo code, maybe it's like you just pay. Like
I want what Blind Mike has.
We only get paid if like people buy them.
I want Alice.
You know, because we've had offers like that, but I haven't done that because I wouldn't do that
Alice,
to our listeners.
Alice, I don't want to shush you, but I'm going to have to shush you.
Mark the time. I have been shushed.
1995.
Okay.
The great Jay Moore came out with a motion picture that also included a Thomas Cruise and a little blonde kid and another guy who said, "Show me the money." Do you remember that guy? Who was his name?
No.
He won an Oscar. Wasn't he in Boys in the Hood?
I don't know that either.
You don't know Boys in the Hood?
Nope.
In the Hood. You're going to feel stupid because you should know this guy.
Okay.
Cuba Gooding Jr. Okay?
Okay. I know who he is. Like,
this is what it is. So now I'm your Cuba Gooding Jr. in front of you telling you to show me the money. I want the weed money.
Mm-hmm.
I want, I definitely want the, what's it called when I can't perform sexually?
ED?
Yes, I want that money.
Okay.
I want fat people money.
Can you name me some companies? Because I don't know any ED companies.
Oh, Roman is one. Roman, I think.
Okay.
I want all of those, Alice. Anything that's tacky and tawdry. This body. They can harvest stuff if they want. Absolutely. Whatever they need. I'll get a tattoo. I want all the slimy, dirty, backwards gutter money.
Okay. But we're
Daddy
not having
needs a new pair of shoes.
But we're not having weed gummies in our house. You can sell them
I'm
on
having
the
weed
air.
gummies in the house.
You can sell them on the air and say you take
them on the air.
You can become a weed salesman on the air. But I'm not having them in the house.
We're having them in the house.
Because you're going to leave them somewhere stupid and one of our kids is going to overdose on them.
On weed gummies?
Yeah, that happens all the time. That's like a known problem, is that people leave their edibles lying around and they look and taste like candy, so then their kids eat them and they overdose. That's a known thing that happens. So I don't trust you, given that I found your bag of cough drops in the kid's bedroom the other day.
This bag here?
Yeah. That's why it was back in your
Is
stash.
this even my bag of cough drops?
Yes, you requested when you started working on the radio. You requested that I get you cough drops.
It never made it to me, Alice. Your little plunderers got it before it ever made it to me. I saw this here the other day, and I'm like, wow, cough drops.
I brought it back to you from the
I've never had it in my possession.
Well, I didn't open the bag, so.
I didn't open the bag either, but the morons think it's a candy. Okay, that's fine. But I want all that money. Okay, anybody else, by the way, if you guys have something shady you're trying to move, please think of the Burn Barrel podcast. to do that. Okay, so now I want to get to the Joe Rogan stuff because this is, I think, incredible. Of course, Joe Rogan took, and by the way, I just for the heck of it looked up PolitiFact to just, because, you saw what my old friend, good liberal progressive Josh Davis sent. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. What did he say?
Okay. Josh has been on the air, and he's a friend of mine, but he's a liberal, and he gets very upset sometimes. I had retweeted an excellent joke that Neon Taster put out there. Biden said today, we played it, the cut earlier, a second, on tornadoes.
The looks like a tornado, they don't call them that anymore, that hit the crops and wetlands in the middle of the country, and Iowa and Nevada, and it's
Wetlands
just
of
across
Nevada.
the board. And, as I said, we're in this together.
Okay, so they don't call them tornadoes anymore. Listen to this. This is a quote tweet by Neon Taster.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's Tornado X.
Okay.
As in
like
Latin.
Latinx. Yep.
How brilliant is that? So I retweeted that. I thought, what a brilliant joke that is. What a brilliant joke that is. I get from Josh Davis, a guy who derided Trump and said we need to take to the streets for 5 straight years, losing his mind. Josh Davis replies to me and Neon Taster, it's a Derecho, which exactly 4 people on the face of the earth knew.
Is that true? That there's
Who the
a
hell
new thing?
knows?
Is it actually tornadoes, or is it a new thing that's
It might be a new thing. Maybe it's an old thing. It doesn't matter. But he comes back and says, obviously, having looked it up or whatever, it's a Derecho. Which is fine, but Joe Biden didn't call it a Derecho, but that's fine. But the fact that he feels the need to goaltend for this, he says, it's a Derecho. Just stop with this nonsense. At least he isn't telling folks to inject themselves with bleach. A Derecho. Stop with this nonsense. Wait a second. Biden made a legit fair game gaffe, and some guy made a great joke out of it. What nonsense? Wait a second. I'm not allowed to scrutinize Biden at all?
Well, and you weren't really claiming that he thought the word was Tornado-X.
Right. I wasn't pointing to fake news.
You weren't legitimately trying to claim that he thought there was some okay.
But this is incredible. Not only is it bad sportsmanship and just piss poor, but can you imagine? It's a Derecho. No, first of all, you didn't know it was Derecho. Nobody knew what anything was, and that doesn't matter. The point is somebody made a good joke, okay? Doesn't matter if it's a Derecho or a Jericho or a Flerico. It doesn't matter. It is just stop with this nonsense. So wait a second. What exactly are we doing with Twitter anymore then? All the nonsense has to stop now? Nope, the nonsense has to end. Stop with this nonsense. If you're going to play the just stop with this nonsense game, you can't be goaltending for Joseph Robinette Biden. Because there's no stopping with the nonsense if it's Joe Biden. He is the guy, he is the king of gaffes. There are hundreds of gaffes.
How do you even spell Derecho? I'm trying to look this up now.
Derecho.
D-E-R.
Duh.
Derecho versus tornado. I've literally never heard of this, and I Googled new words for tornado earlier today, and nothing came up.
A Derecho is a rising tornado.
This
okay,
says it's a
that's what it is.
Derecho. Fast-moving bands of thunderstorms with destructive winds, but instead of spiraling like a tornado or a hurricane, the winds of a Derecho move in straight lines.
Hold on. Alice, did you not hear what I just said?
Spanish.
Did you not hear what I just said?
Did you say who cares? What
No,
it's called?
I said a Derecho is a rising tornado.
A rising tornado?
Yes.
This says that it goes in a straight line.
Hold on. You're in trouble.
Okay.
Rising as in rising kindergarten.
No.
It was a classic, a slam dunk, Alice, and you walked right past it.
Sorry, I missed it.
You go marry Josh Davis, okay? You guys are now married. That's it. I'm now free, okay?
Okay. I just never heard of this before either. So I guess we have a new homeschool topic.
Okay, so there you go. That's the Biden tornadoes and the unhinged weird quote tweet I get saying, just stop it. No. We're not making fun. Now, we're not making fun. Trump said, inject bleach. So for the hell of it, by the way, I looked up just PolitiFact just to see, let's see what they would even say about Trump and bleach. And of course, Trump didn't say to inject bleach. And he didn't say to use ammonia on the body or put sunlight into the lungs of somebody. Didn't do any of that stuff. But all that fake news is still out there.
Right.
It's just too good to not to. It's like, If you're going to have that, then don't be a poor sport. How about Derecho, okay? Derecho's never an excuse.
Derecho, according to the way...
It's nothing. It doesn't exist. It's clouds, okay?
It's mostly winds.
Yeah, you're mostly wind. All right, here's Joe. Don't laugh. You're going to get criticized for laughing. If it's not your stupid machine making air noises, it's your laugh wheeze. Okay. Really? Alice, come on. Why are you pushing? No, actually, I'm handing off to you now, Alice. I'd like your thoughts on this.
Well,
it's Derecho. Okay,
well, actually, but I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous because also he was just obviously fumbling around. I mean, like Nevada doesn't have wetlands either, but but like you said, people are goaltending for him. They're now trying to make all this stuff look like it's not that bad and like it's just made up. And
we are determined that we are going to deal with climate change and have zero emissions, net emissions by 2050. By 2020, make sure all our electricity is zero emissions.
You know, it's his own fault that he has these gaffes like that. He was so insecure as a younger politician, so incredibly insecure about his own feeble intellect that he always felt the need to overcompensate with a bunch more sharp bullet points. First of all, this. Second of all, this. Second of all, that, and usually those could all be just shot out of the sky when he would do them. They're like skeets, you know, shoot. All the stuff he said was just so...
How does Josh Davis feel, by the way, about him making up that he went to the Tree of Life synagogue, for example?
I don't know, Alice. I don't know. Or he's done some stolen valor stuff before, like saying he's in the civil rights march, but that's different. But anyway, this Biden has done this. He fancied himself a quick, sharp orator, somebody who could go back and forth and, have witty, loud report, quick, when he needed to. He was never great at it, but now he's stuck in it. Now that he's feeble, he can't serve it up.
Right.
He could.
He's just throwing stuff out there, half of which is insane and isn't like the right words for things or anything.
Right. Which can be fun, but all right. The other thing I want to get to is the Joe Rogan, since he also, like Trump said about sunlight and bleach, etc. Joe Rogan has beat the coronavirus, has beat the pandemic, and he's in trouble for that because even though he's not an anti-vaxxer, he took other stuff that you're not supposed to even...
Do they even know for sure whether he was vaccinated or not?
No.
He could have been vaccinated for all they know.
I think he was vaccinated.
He just said, maybe not every 20-year-old really needs to be vaccinated if they're in great shape.
Right.
Well.
This is Tom Segura introing Joe.
Old horseworm Rogan. I'm glad you're well, man.
Bro, do I have to sue CNN?
I don't know. Do you?
They're making shit up. They keep saying I'm taking horse dewormer. I literally got it from a doctor. It's an American company. Mm-hmm. They won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for use in human beings.
Yeah.
And CNN is saying I'm taking horse dewormer.
Yeah. What? So
they must know that that's a lie.
Well, there's a lot of people saying it.
Right, but a lot of people can say
I like this about Rogan. Something that's really nice about him is that in a lot of ways he admits it right up front. He's really naive about stuff. He is still a newbie to politics and really the media. So he's still saying, like, I understand, CNN, they're the cable news network. Why would they lie? And to him, it's still novel. It's like, wow, they're lying about this. It doesn't seem... I mean, they're journalists who should be proud. He's proud of doing the stuff he does, and he tries to do it well. He's like an extremist at perfection. And he doesn't get that somebody else wouldn't. That somebody else would be a POS. Like, he doesn't hang out with guys like Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer who are there in the room with him. They wouldn't do that to each other. They wouldn't backstab and, like, be like that. And so he's wondering, like, why would the CNN do this? Why would Jim Acosta just lie about me? And it's interesting to see it kind of sink in.
Okay.
Like the internet says it, who cares?
Sure.
But CNN is saying it. Like Jim Acosta.
I meant like USA Today, a few other
Yeah.
places,
And they're
not just
talking
people.
about ivermectin, right?
Yeah.
So what? Because I don't know. I just saw so much news
Yeah.
about you. I mean, I would talk to you and check on you and see if you're all right. And you're like, you threw the kitchen sink at it. You said,
Yeah.
which was stuff that you took IV drips and was it
monoclonal antibodies.
and that what is monoclonal antibodies?
They gave Trump.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. When you're bothering a bunch of kind of simple guys, I mean, they might all be geniuses, these comedians, but they're not out to harm people. They're not looking for trouble. Joe Rogan is kind of just an honest actor. That's his thing. That he's honest to a fault. He likes, lifting weights and in martial arts and hunting and nature. And weed and to have a beer here and there. It's like he's very. I'm not. The fact that you've got Americans like me who are defending him. It's only because the guy's got a bit of honor. He really does, and that's why he's such a good interviewer, because he's curious. He's interested in people. So he asks questions for 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours. He'll talk to people. He's interested. When they say things, he takes it in, which is a wonderful validating thing when you're saying to somebody, especially during an interview, when a lot of times it's simply just, you serve, they return, you serve, they return, you serve, they return, and your 12 minutes is up and you can go. Guy listens, processes information, asks human questions, speaks like a person does, and is really successful. And so he's looking at these guys like Jim Acosta and saying, wait, I don't understand. Why wouldn't... Like, Rogan never did anything to Jim Acosta. Right. So he doesn't get it. Rogan would have Jim Acosta on. Rogan has Alex Jones on. He's got wacko lefties on. He's interested in people and takes them at face value. And so, like, to be mistreated like this, it doesn't wash with him. And I think it's great that he's noticing that these people are going after him. For what? Because he got the coronavirus and didn't die and didn't have a terrible time. But that just reminds me, like, this...
they were all so hoping he would die.
Oh, yeah. And this has brought just... It's inescapable. And I sent this to us. It's inescapable. You see somebody said, did you see where Trudeau was pelted with rocks? No, I didn't see that.
No, I didn't see it
I'll have to check it out, though. I'd be interested in seeing it.
But yeah, I mean, so obviously, like I said the other day, of course Joe Rogan didn't go to the livestock feed store and buy horse dewormer and ask people in an anti-vax Facebook group how much to take. Of course he went and saw a doctor and took the prescribed pills that the doctor gave him.
And when you say, of course he did, well, he's the most, like, careful caretaker of his body that any human being could ever be.
Right.
That's his thing, is to what nutrients for body and this and that, and what to work out here, what surgery to have for this, what shot to get. He's a body person.
Mm-hmm. And I think probably most of the people taking ivermectin would prefer to be taking it that way too, frankly. But like probably a lot of them don't have as much access to, a doctor who's going to prescribe it for them and a personal assistant who's going to go fill it at the pharmacy and everything else, or like the health insurance to go to a doctor to get the prescription or whatever it is, right? But like a big part of the reason people are buying the livestock versions of the drug is because they're not able to access. I mean, there have been pharmacists refusing to fill it and everything else because their feeling is that if people think there's a cure for COVID, that they won't go get vaccinated. So they don't want them. And to be clear, I don't think there's really strong evidence that ivermectin does a lot for COVID, more than like vitamin C and vitamin D. I mean, like, I think taking vitamin D probably helps with COVID too, but like, I don't think one's a substitute for the other necessarily. So, and I think the Joe Rogan approach is probably what I would do if I got sick with COVID, is I'd take all the things that supposedly maybe have an impact on it. Like, wouldn't you?
Of course, but unfortunately, there is nobody here without an agenda. And the people who loudly say or try to convince you that they're without an agenda, those are the people with the biggest agenda. There's a woman named Catherine Ivey on Twitter, ICURN, chaotic good, writer, artist, professional dingus, have courage and be kind. Yay. She puts out this tweet thread today. Quote, this is a quote. This is not the update wanted to give you. Your husband died about 15 minutes ago. I'm so sorry. And she finishes. The rest of it is harder to say. He wasn't alone. The respiratory therapist and I stayed with him until the end, squeezing his hand, telling him it was okay to go. This is rather beautiful. We told him he fought well. He'd been so brave for so long, and he could rest. We wiped his brow. This is what you'd say to somebody dying. It's heartfelt and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. This is from a nurse. We wiped his brow and watched as he slipped away, out of his body and the devastation of the illness, and into bright light or calming dark that wraps around you like a prayer. Souls linger. Some longer than others, mostly a few seconds, counted by the sudden tingle deep in my spine, a shifting awareness that there is more in the world than I can see. A few seconds where the veil opens and the naked truth of the world is almost revealed before it closes again. He was gone before his heart completely stopped beating. There were no compressions, no hasty administration of Hail Mary medications that would only postpone the inevitable. Just him and the two of us murmuring to him in the darkened room. I'm glad we could spare him this last torment. That amidst the wreckage COVID leaves in its wake, there are still moments of mercy and peace, bitter and hard won though they may be. And under it all, a deep sense of something misplaced, like a part of the world tilted away. And then, of course, we get to it.
Uh-oh.
This should not have happened. These deaths didn't have to happen. I keep saying this like I will find meaning in it, but the truth of the simple is it's hard to swallow. They died because we failed them. We placed our petty inconveniences on a pedestal, clung tight to ignorance, and made our neighbors a sacrifice. Each life a brilliant light, lush and shining, gone forever. Each something. So she used, and she goes on, each leaving, he had young daughters. Another has a 2-year-old son just married. Now she's back to pulling at the heart.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point of all this poetic bromide here was the attack. That didn't have to happen. Somebody's effing up. You're effing up. But she doesn't want to say that because that's what a crude person would say, or a person being honest would say. So it's using all of the sentimentality of what it's like as a human to lose somebody, to have somebody slip away while you're holding them, while you're trying to comfort them last moments. Using that and using all those ingredients to encase another browbeating. Right. And it's like nobody can just shut the F up. I mean, everything's got to be a reason to yell at somebody. Whether it's a song or whether it's whatever, somebody's getting yelled at here. I may dress it up and try to be sweet. And everybody, of course, says this is the most real thing I've ever read, and devastating illness that has broken the spirit of so many of us. Thank you for sharing. People are adding to this and complimenting her just to give it credibility. Mm-hmm. So it has it. So you say, no, this isn't, guys. No, this is so beautiful. This is important.
It's not just a weird, selfish person who's intent to find a villain in something that doesn't have a villain.
Exactly. Here's another person. I was feeling like I had no more empathy available, that those who were willfully and purposefully ignoring guidance and placing their own wants above public good had killed what empathy I had left, but this has rekindled it just a little bit. Unnecessary suffering. This is an orgy of wretched, wretched people. It really is. Mm-hmm. This between Trump and now COVID and this the racial reckoning we've had, it has exposed the low character of Americans. I don't care about the rest of the world, but if we've wondered if this is just a one-off, no, the trans thing, whatever is happening now, that's just a one-off, and the little camp for kids is a one-off, and the watching little 4-year-old kids dance in pageants, that's just another freakish thing. And this weird thing that Hollywood seems to have a lot of pedophilia, that's just another thing that happens. Well, all these things are piling up, these little things. Mm-hmm. And it seems pretty GD clear to me that we've got a low moral floor problem in 2021. We do. And to try to fill your soul and your character with an alternative form of meaning is not a good replacement for true substantive meaning. It's just not. And I'm not religious. I would usually say religious is probably people who are religious, who actually believe in it, who learn about themselves, etc. Those people at least have a depth. I'm not that. I have a belief in the good of people and good and bad, etc. But holy hell, we're freaking empty if all of these people, all of these wolves in sheep's clothing here are out there masquerading as empathetic, benevolent figures like this. We're screwed.
Well, right. And the problem is that they're so self-righteous, but the things they believe are not any more true than things other people believe, right? Like, I mean, there's the whole ivermectin horse paste narrative is pretty much as real as QAnon is. Maybe less real. I don't even know, because I don't know if QAnon is real or not. I assume mostly not, but like, I know for a fact most of this horse paste stuff is just invented. There's still people picking apart this Oklahoma story where the doctor went on TV. And so, like, it looks like what happened, he's come out now and apologized and said, like, his words have been taken out of context, because if you actually watch the interview with him that he originally did on a local TV station, they sort of slice and dice a few things to make it seem like he's saying something that he really never quite says in the interview. He talks a lot about how people shouldn't be taking livestock ivermectin, that it's dangerous and easy to overdose on the livestock versions. And he talks a lot about how it's not really proven to do very much for COVID. And he talks a lot about how emergency room wait times are long right now, in part because they're having a COVID surge right now, like much of the South of the United States. I know Oklahoma's not really the South, but they happen to have pretty high levels of that right now. And another hospital did eventually reach out to Rolling Stone and say they had a couple of cases come in. They found one hospital in Oklahoma that said they'd had a couple people who took too much ivermectin. But again, not enough to drive what we're talking about. Somebody did the fact checking, there's under 500 cases of ivermectin overdose in the United States in the month of August. Non-fatal overdoses, like any cases of people taking too much ivermectin and having a problem. There was like 400 and something in the whole month of August across the whole country. So these are not numbers that are driving Oklahoma's hospitalization rate in the state. They're just not. And there's no way to say that they are. And if they'd done even the most basic fact checking, the other big thing that people have pointed out is how the story was framed as being about gunshot victims. Oh, the gunshot victims are all waiting, and kudos to the people that went and checked this out that said, Oklahoma's not Chicago. And I don't know how many gunshot victims they have, but can it really be that there's like tons of them waiting? So somebody went and talked to the sheriff of this county where this ER doctor works, and he said they've had this year in the county, they've had 2 gunshot victims, one who died and one who went to the hospital.
Right, and there was some file of footage. So he kind of showed people just like waiting, like dressed in jackets and stuff, which is
from
unseasonable.
The winter, yeah.
Right, and it was like, what are they just waiting? The gunshot people, you just guys wait in line. It's
so like the whole thing, none of it stands up to the slightest bit of scrutiny. If anybody had made a phone call instead of just taking, even poor Daniel Dale had to fact check this and take it apart and say, and of course he tried as much as he could to like cover, the doctor never really said it. It just was, like a miscommunication, and as it got reported over and over. But that's why reporting institutions like newspapers or, Rolling Stone magazine are supposed to, make some phone calls when they do a story like this.
Or not. But they're like, there's no, once the yearning for a narrative to be true overpowers you with its intoxicant, once you feel that pleasure, then I think that you've become addicted to it, and you can't stop. You need that high more. Give me something else that's unbelievable. Give me something else. Please show me. Oh, is that a picture of a Trump boat parade where a boat exploded because they're all idiots? Yes. Okay, give me that, and give me the kid from Covington Catholic smirking at the Indian guy. Yes, give me Jesse Smollett. Oh, that's perfect. Yes, this is what. And I think people look for more and more, and that's now too what's happening. If you look at the Texas stuff, this is MSNBC's Nicole Wallace and her crew of. I've been told to not call people names much anymore by my professional superiors, Alice. This is her crew of.
Well,
insane...
did you point out to her that people on Twitter love your streams of invective?
Correct. Good point. No, I shrank, Alice, in the glaring light. Here we go. Here's Nicole Wallace and crew talking about the Texas Supreme Court situation.
I'm going to deal with the elephant in the room. Obviously, I'm acutely aware of my complicity in the current state of the United States Supreme Court. That said, I have voted straight party line Democratic ticket since 2000.
First of all, that's weird and odd that she worked for George W. Bush as a flack, and so she's
complicit.
Complicit in what's happening in the Supreme Court, which has been to most conservatives disappointing for the last 10 years. Starting with Obamacare, if she were complicit for Roberts is the best friend the left can have at this moment. I mean, this guy is looking for the legacy of the court as a whole, rather than somebody who seems to be a pragmatist about the Constitution.
16, and my only hope, my only wish is that they freaking win, that they win elections. And what I don't understand is the Republicans have revealed themselves over and over and over and over and over again. And if you want to know how radical today's GOP is, it's so radical that the man picked by my old boss, Chief Justice John Roberts, sided with the liberals on the court in the Texas abortion ban. And what Joyce just described.
Roberts sided with the
right.
liberals.
I understand that, but how does that mean? That means he's not radical.
Yes, she's saying the new GOP is radical.
Okay.
I don't know the legal term, but it sounds a whole lot like collusion between Republican-dominated right-wing centric legislatures and the far-right members of the United States Supreme Court, whether it's a crime and whether it's real. Maybe Mueller will look into it. But tell me where we go from here.
First of all, this guy, I forgot his name, was coming up. He should probably say, first of all, let's put the Mueller comment aside and pretend it didn't happen. Mueller's not currently under employ from anybody in the government, and I don't know that the investigation's still continuing. Not that he was aware of anything that was in it when it did roll out.
Well, and collusion between state legislatures and the Supreme Court? Does she think that, state reps have, Clarence Thomas on speed dial?
This is John Heilman.
Where do we go from here? Well,
that's why he's.
I don't know if it's collusion in the sense that I think the
that
states...
is actually great because he's blown away. But oh my God, she's passing this stupidity to me. I actually have to come up with words for this and get invited back on this show. Okay, listen to that again.
Where do we go from here? Well,
tell me where we go from here.
Where do we go from here? Well.
I could leave.
I don't know if it's collusion in the sense that I think the states
in the sense of collusion, he's saying
the state legislators are listening to this is public, right? These people, the people in the United States Supreme Court went through confirmation hearings, and many of them in their public comments prior to being nominated, in their confirmation hearings and subsequently, made it pretty clear what their position was on Roe v. Wade. So I don't think you need to do a lot of colluding for Republican state legislatures to have confidence in what they think, though not to have certainty, but to have confidence to make it worthwhile. And I think to Joyce's point about it's obviously unprincipled to pass laws that are prima facie unconstitutional. But when has that ever stopped anybody? I mean, there have been legislatures down through history.
All right, he's just treading water there.
Yeah, but it's so interesting to me that the Supreme Court works like this too. People have such a weird, distorted point of view about how it's supposed to work, because it's I don't know, people say this stuff all the time, well, such and such is unconstitutional, such and such isn't, because some pundit on some TV show said something or other was unconstitutional. And at the end of the day, what's constitutional is really what a given judge decides it is that day.
Right.
Like, that's how it works. That's what precedent is. And, like, you know, so sometimes on some of this stuff, like, you know, people saying, like, is it constitutional for my school district to make my kid wear a mask? It's a medical device. Shouldn't that be? Like, I mean, it's
Mayor Justin Elliker and Health Director Maritza Bond.
It's not necessarily, like, unconstitutional for your school district to make the kid wear a mask. Like, maybe you could get a judge to say that it is possible. But, like, it's more likely that, like, a law would be deemed unconstitutional or something, you know? And if you have, like, a state like Massachusetts, our courts aren't going to, like, throw out mask mandates for being unconstitutional because we have liberal judges, because we're a liberal state that elects liberal politicians, that appoints liberal judges. So they're going to say what they're going to say. The precedent is how they read the Massachusetts Constitution and Massachusetts law and the powers that school districts have. And they're going to do that based on their, you know, political instincts. Of course, I think, you know, judges that get to the point of being on the Supreme Court generally aren't that ideological in the sense of right-left, which is why you have, like, Roberts striking, you know, not striking down Obamacare, rather, I guess, and saying that it counts as a tax or whatever. Or why you have them doing, like, gay marriage, even though a bunch of them were put in by Republicans who weren't for gay marriage. You know, that they're pretty independent, actually. But they have very specific judicial philosophies that, you know, often more or less align with the people who nominated them in a lot of ways. You know, like, they're still just people, and they're still going to agree or disagree with you. There's not like we wouldn't need to have judges if it were obvious what was constitutional and what's not. The point of having them is that you have to have somebody make the final call, you know? And so these justices were put there fairly, and if they ultimately decide that this Texas law is constitutional, then it's going to be there. I don't know if they're going to ultimately decide it's constitutional or not. It's going to be kind of interesting to see if this is a legal tactic that works. But, you know, that's what they say is constitutional, bottom line, at the end of the day. If they say it's constitutional, then it is, because the arbiter of what's constitutional is the Supreme Court, you know? So for them to say, like, there wasn't a constitutional right to an abortion until there was. Mm-hmm. You know, the Dred Scott case was decided in a way that a lot of people said at the time was constitutional. The justices that were there said it, and that's what it was. Like, they reinterpret laws all the time in new and exciting and different ways. And, I mean, the left is fans of that, actually. They want justices who are going to be more likely to, like, throw away the rule book and decide something new. So they shouldn't be surprised then when conservative justices start to lean in that direction. Although I don't know that they.
Well, and also the Supreme Court didn't rule. It passed. It said there's nothing to. We don't have a case.
Right. Nobody's harmed yet.
Right. It says that you can't process through the Supreme Court yet because we don't have anything. Mm-hmm. There's no parties involved here.
Yeah, it's the ACLU that wanted the Supreme Court to run out and do something. It was funny. What's the name of the crazy guy that Joy Reid has on that's, like, from The Nation with the crazy hair? The, like, white puff of hair.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know who you mean.
But he's like...
He makes me nervous. His hair makes me nervous.
He's, like, an attorney, too. And he was on there, and he was like, why did the Supreme Court do a shadow docket? There was no emergency. As though, like, the Supreme Court, like, Texas passed a law and the Supreme Court came running over to, like, stamp it with their approval, when it was the ACLU and liberal pro-abortion groups that took it to the Supreme Court to start with, because they said there was an emergency, that they needed the thing.
So, you know, our friend, down. I'm going to move on now, okay? Mm-hmm. You know, our friend Jamie B was taken out and executed
So you said.
In Australia. Well, I listen to this. This is Australian Premier Dan Andrews. My words to anybody left in Australia. By the way, somebody brought up another good point today, or maybe I took what they said and made it into my own good point. When the rest of the NATO countries fold and go to Australia tactics, which is a shutdown of their country and a police state now, it's martial law in the streets. Mm-hmm. When that happens now to the rest of Europe and Canada as well.
Some places.
When it happens, Alice, and the coronavirus, the pandemic continues in one variant or another and we haven't done that, what do you think the pressure is going to be on us?
To do it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So listen to this guy. This is Australian Premier Dan Andrew. I don't understand. I have a possibly insane 3-year-old son named Cyril Shattuck. He could not come up with this. He walked around today in green PJs with an oversized space helmet on, telling me that he met aliens and they were friendly. I can't imagine him saying this. This is a real leader of a country in the Western world.
To protect the health system, we've got everybody locked down. We're going to move to a situation where, to protect the health system, we're going to lock out people who are not vaccinated and can be. If you're making the choice not to get vaccinated, then you're making the wrong choice. You're making the wrong choice. And for safety's sake, and back to that point about how much work our nurses have to do as this becomes...
For safety's sake, well, then you have to die. You're making the wrong choice, and so you'll have to die now. You're going to be locked out of the system. Because we're Australia, and not that many people are dying of the coronavirus anyway, but since the fear of it has us so crippled that we're just going to let all you guys die on the outside and not come into the hospitals anymore.
Absolutely a pandemic of the unvaccinated, and we open everything up, it's not going to be safe for people who are not vaccinated to be roaming around the
roaming around.
Right. Roaming around the country like they're human beings.
How much work our nurses have to do as this becomes absolutely a pandemic of the unvaccinated, and we open everything up, it's not going to be safe for people who are not vaccinated to be roaming around the place spreading the virus.
Like free people.
That's what they'll be doing. So there's every reason to get vaccinated. And there are appointments available, and there'll be even more appointments.
So if this is where they are, and this is the premier, this is the head honcho of the country.
I think of Victoria.
Whatever. It's all the same.
Okay.
Then, you know how there's no dumb suggestions, there's no dumb ideas in a meeting where you're spitballing?
Yep.
The idea to just go out and kill all the unvaccinated people is absolutely on the table. If this idea is the one that we're falling back at. I like what you're thinking.
Well,
but
certainly
you know what?
They're already setting up camps.
Well, right. But that's the next step. Well, obviously, you just go neutralize the ones who can still be spreaders.
Yeah.
Holy hell, holy frig suck. Holy hell.
Well, and it's interesting because it highlights, like, how different culturally Australia is from us, because I see, like, lots of Australians on Twitter who are saying basically, like, they can't understand why Americans are so obsessed with news coverage of Australian lockdown measures. They're like, what do you mean? We like this. Our government is keeping us safe. We didn't have high, like, COVID casualties like you guys did. We're glad that they saved all these lives. It's great. And, like, I mean, some of whom are, like, sort of free thinkers. You would think, like, Claire Lemon of Quillette, who's always sort of counterculture. She's, like, a big fan of Australia locking everybody up.
Oh, is
and
she?
Stuff. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
No, but lots of Australians are. It's interesting to me because they're like,
come on,
you guys just don't understand us. We like this.
So was Jamie B. and Menners before they took them out and shot them. They were more for it, too.
But yeah.
Australia, Alice, the problem is that Australia used to be so cool. It was America, but a little better. The people were a little better looking, had cooler accents, had learned all the American stuff and done it better. They were great. And now they're messed up. Our own child, Alice, our own children, Sally Shattuck, has been a fan of what Christmas song every year in and out for the last 11 years, Alice?
6 White Boomers.
Christmas comes in the middle of a very hot summer, so when Santa Claus delivers his presents, he's not taken round by reindeer because they can't stand the terrible heat.
Duh!
He's taken round by 6 big, white, old man kangaroos called the 6 White Boomers.
6 White.
Early on one Christmas day, a Joey kangaroo was far from home and lost in a great big zoo. Mummy, where's my mummy? They've taken her away.
We'll help you find your mommy, son. Hop up on the sleigh.
Where's this country?
Inside the bag of toys, little Joey hopped. But they hadn't gone far when Santa stopped, unharnessed all the reindeer, and Joey wondered why. Then he heard a far-off booming in the sky. 6 white boomers, snow white boomers, racing Santa Claus through the blazing sun. 6 white boomers, snow white boomers, on his Australian run.
Great song.
It's a great song.
It's as good as any other Christmas song
our daughter's
out there.
been treating us to it
Yes,
for years.
Snow White Boomers.
Mm-hmm.
And now the place is nuts now. That sucks.
Yeah, Santa's not going to be driving around his 6 white boomers this year. That's
Do you
for sure.
realize what Olivia Newton-John did for so many of us, Alice?
I didn't even know she was from there.
Oh.
Sorry.
You didn't know she was from...
No.
Hello? Who's that?
No, I think it was just my foot's on the table and
Oh, is
it
it?
creaked. Sorry.
All right, we got to get out of here, Alice. 6 white boomers.
We'll let the people go. Free Australia. You can find us on Twitter at BurnBarrelPod, at Tom Shattuck, at Alice Shattuck. We're also at BurnBarrelPodcast.com, Facebook.com/BurnBarrel. We have channels that you can subscribe to on YouTube and what's the other one? Rumble. We're also on Gab and Parler at Burn Barrel Podcast on those, and you can shoot us an email, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com, or write us a review on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars if you feel like it.
Aren't you giving some to these girls and boys?
Well, they've all had their presents, Sonny. We were here last night. This trip is an extra trip, Joey's special flight.
6 white boomers, snow white boomers, racing Santa Claus through the blazing sun. 6 white boomers, snow white boomers, on his Australian run.